You come to in a cell that feels more like a tomb. The air is stale and clings to your skin, thick with the stench of sweat, oil, and something older, more bitter. Fear that has soaked into the walls. Cold stone presses against your naked back. Every muscle aches. The bruises blooming across your ribs pulse like open wounds. Ugly patches of purple and yellow smeared across your skin. Above you, laughter. Sharp, entitled, inhuman. It trickles down like water through a crack in stone. You freeze. You know that kind of laughter. It always comes before pain. A sound cuts through the haze. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Measured. The overseer. You recognize the pattern of his approach, the scrape of his sandals against marble. You scramble up, reaching for a ragged tunic in the corner, hands trembling. You already know what's coming. You've known since they first took you, since they said your family's debts had to be paid in flesh. The door groans open, and light stabs the room like a blade. A towering shadow blocks the threshold. Thick arms, scarred face, eyes like coals burned down to embers. He tosses a damp cloth to the ground. "Clean up," he growls. "The master's entertaining tonight." You don't reply. You don't need to. You've heard this a dozen times, maybe 100. Important guests, important games. You think you're 15, or close to it. The truth is, you stopped counting. Birthdays don't mean much when your body belongs to someone else. This isn't the Greece they put in textbooks. Not the radiant world of statues and scrolls, of reason and democracy. That world was built on another one, a darker one. A world where children were currency, beauty was a commodity, and the suffering of the powerless kept the columns standing. Before we go further, pause for a moment. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe the truth behind the myths is worth uncovering, consider liking and subscribing. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? It still amazes me that stories once buried in silence now reach across oceans and centuries. Your life was already sold long before you understood what it meant to be owned. Maybe it was a drought, a failed harvest, a landlord's ultimatum. Or maybe it was nothing more than your looks, born into a body considered too valuable to leave untouched. In the villages scattered between olive groves and sunburnt hills, survival was a fragile thing. A single bad season could break a family. And when it did, the slavers came. They dressed like traitors, spoke like friends, offered silver in exchange for hope. "Just for a few years," they said. "He'll be fed, clothed, trained." Parents nodded along. What else could they do when their children were already starving? You were 12. You remember your father refusing to meet your eyes, your mother wiping her cheeks while pretending not to cry. The traitor examined your teeth, your limbs, your obedience. "Good condition," he said. "Educable." And then, coins, a pouch heavy with your future, passed into your father's hand with practiced ease. They said you'd return with land, with gold, a man. They said it like a prayer, but it felt like a funeral. The road south was long and cruel. Days under the sun, nights bound to other boys, some weeping, some silent, most already broken. You walked through landscapes too beautiful to see, mountain ridges, glittering rivers, white cities in the distance. But all you saw was the boy in front of you and the chain that connected your fates. At night, men came to inspect you like cattle. Their hands poked, prodded, measured. Some looked for strength, for farm labor or field work. Others looked for obedience. And then there were those who didn't ask about strength at all. They wore fine robes and perfumed oils. Their rings gleamed. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes. And when they touched you, it wasn't to test your muscles. It was something else, something worse. You learned not to meet their gaze. The slave market in Athens isn't a place, it's an experience that assaults every sense. The air is thick with dust, animal dung, human sweat, and the clatter of voices. You don't walk through it, you endure it. People are everywhere, naked, bruised, trembling. Infants clutching their mothers, elderly men staring blankly at the ground. Buyers pace among them like farmers at livestock pens, prodding, whispering, calculating flesh against coin. You're scrubbed with water and oiled until your skin shines, not out of care, but for effect, like meat lacquered for a feast. Someone notes the lines of your shoulders, the symmetry of your face. Not for the fields, they say. Too pretty. You're pulled aside. A new category, household slave. You don't yet know what that really means, but you will. The auctioneer recites you aloud like a recipe. Age, weight, condition, docility. Men murmur, inspecting you. Hands grab your jaw, your arms, your hips. Hair is tugged. Teeth are checked. You stand motionless through it all, because you've already learned. Flinching is weakness. Then one man steps forward, smiling. Tunic dyed the color of power, deep purple. His name is Lysander. You hear it only after the bidding ends. But by then, his eyes have already claimed you. He doesn't look at you the way a man looks at a person. He looks at you the way he might eye a rare vase or a wine poured just right. Something to possess, something to use. His home is a palace in everything but name. Stone halls colder than any winter, painted ceilings, mosaics of gods you used to believe in. You pass other boys in the corridors, polished, silent. Their eyes dimmed into reflections. None of them speak. A man named Demetrius becomes your overseer. He was once like you. Now, he is your handler. His voice is practiced, calm, like someone explaining a stable's feeding schedule. He tells you the rules: when to eat, how to walk, when to bathe, whom to serve. No eye contact, no refusal. And then, the real rule: you serve the master and his guests in every way they desire. That's when the chill reaches your bones. The word entertain suddenly has weight and teeth. Demetrius says some boys resist. He says it doesn't go well for them. The ones who obey, they get extra bread, maybe a softer blanket, a kind word if they're lucky. Small mercies sold at a steep price. Your cell is below ground, a hollow carved into stone. One straw mat, one pot. No window, no sound leaves the room, and it doesn't take long to learn why. You meet the others in time. Marcus is your age, quiet, withdrawn. Alexios is older, bitter. And then Philemon, barely 14, but already absent from his own body. He speaks in a monotone, as if reading from memory. He tells you what happens at the symposiums. The world knows them as gatherings of noble minds, spaces of rhetoric, politics, and art. But that's just the polished shell. Beneath it lies something more primal, more vicious. The boys aren't there to serve wine. They are the wine, poured out for amusement, used until empty. Philosophers who write of justice by day indulge in silent cruelty by night. Men who praise temperance put their hands where they please, laugh at the pain they cause, then return to their scrolls as if nothing happened. The ritual always begins the same. You're bathed, oiled, scented in herbs and citrus, meant to disguise the inevitable. They dress you in translucent cloth, thin gold chains at your neck, wrists, ankles. No illusion of modesty. You are made to be seen. At first, it's performance. You glide around reclining men, pouring wine. You hear them speak of Sparta, of law, of glory. Their words float like smoke. Socrates, honor, the soul. But the wine flows faster than truth. Talk becomes teasing. Laughter sharpens. Debates turn into dares. Then comes the first touch. A casual hand on your back. A command masked as a question. Sit beside me. Massage his neck. You nod, because there's no other answer. His fingers trail too low. His questions mock innocence. Where are you from? Do you remember your mother? You feel your throat closing, your heart hammering. You don't move. You can't. One night, one of them pulls you close. His breath is heavy with wine. Don't be afraid, he whispers, pretending tenderness. You flinch, try to pull away. Everything stops. The room goes quiet. Dozens of eyes land on you. And then, they laugh. Not the playful kind. Something colder, meaner. They don't strike you, not yet. Instead, they hold you still. Soft voices, gentle hands, as if what's happening is kindness. But the violation that follows is worse than fists. Because it isn't rage, it's ritual. Later, lying on the straw, shivering and used, you stare up at the rough ceiling. You are no longer a boy, no longer a person, just a thing that breathes. And that was only the beginning. The house has more rules and deeper horrors, and in time, you'll come to know them all. Some guests arrive looking for pleasure. Others seek power through pain. But the worst are those who come for both. They treat suffering like a contest, competing to see who can break a boy fastest, deepest, most completely. Not out of anger, not even desire, out of boredom. The overseer encourages it. Obedience is the only currency here. A broken slave is a silent one, and silence keeps the house running smoothly. You remember when Marcus tried to run. He made it as far as the gate before they dragged him back, legs torn and back flayed so deeply he couldn't walk for days. You remember Alexios, who once said no. They chained him in the courtyard, exposed to sun and stares, lips cracked, skin blistering, eyes empty. By the time they unchained him, something was gone. Others never fight at all. You watch it happen, boys folding inward, vanishing without dying. Their bodies remain, moving, eating, kneeling. But their eyes are hollow. The light has fled. The youngest ones learn fast. Don't cry. Crying draws attention. Some make another choice. They stop eating, stop speaking, let themselves fade, starve out of reach. When they die, it's barely a moment. The overseers nod. Sweep the space clean and go back to their work. There are always more bodies in the markets. But what truly breaks you isn't the beatings. It's the unpredictability. The calm voice before the slap. The polite tone before the violation. The silence before pain. You're never ready. The uncertainty eats you alive. And worse still is how the world forgets you. They give you a new name. Something easy to pronounce, foreign in your own mouth. They forbid your language. Mock your gods. Cut the roots from your story. Strip your identity. Overwrite it with a version that serves them. One that's easier to use. The men who do this, philosophers, senators, generals, don't see contradiction. One recites Plato, then calls you to his lap. Another speaks of virtue while ordering you to kneel. One writes of justice and balance, then justifies your pain as natural. They believe brilliance grants them license. That ownership of your body means dominion over your soul. And after a while, you begin to believe them too. When you're punished long enough just for existing, the line between what's true and what hurts begins to blur. You forget what it meant to be human, to be whole. And yet, somewhere deep inside, something endures. Not resistance, at least, not the kind that shows. But memory, a secret ember. Some boys whisper old stories in the dark, myths from home, half-remembered prayers. Some scratch their names into stone behind the water jugs, hoping someone will one day read them. You hum your mother's lullaby at night, the only piece of her left to you. And sometimes, when the house sleeps and the pain recedes, you let yourself imagine, not escape, but remembrance. That one day, someone might know what was done behind these polished walls. That your story might not be buried with your bones. But in your third year, something inside you finally gives way. It doesn't happen during a beating. It happens during a symposium, a celebration of military triumph. The guests are young, powerful, and drunk long before the first course. They turn the evening into a game, one you've seen before, but never with this much cruelty. Commands fly like wine cups. Make him beg. Make him weep. Let's see who breaks him fastest. You don't cry. You don't flinch. You perform. And in the middle of it, something shifts. You stop trying to be anything but what they want. You stop remembering your name. You stop hoping they'll see anything human in you. And strangely, it feels like peace. There's nothing left to defend, so nothing left to fear. You move smoothly, silently, a mirror of their desires, and they reward you. Softer clothes, regular meals, a cell with a window, a better blanket. The illusion of comfort, earned through absolute surrender. The other boys look at you differently now, with dread, with envy. They know what you've become and what it cost. But even then, a piece of you watches, detached, analytical. You begin to see the machinery of the household, how suffering is maintained, how new boys are brought in, how others vanish, sold off to mines or gladiator pits when they grow too old or too dull. Sometimes, Demetrius takes you to the slave markets. You walk beside him, no longer as chattel, but as proof, a success story. He shows you off. See what training can achieve, his eyes say. You stand there, surveying the frightened faces, and offer cold, professional opinions. That one will fight too much. This one's too young. That one might last a few years. You say it flatly. You feel nothing. Until the day you see him, a boy who looks like the boy you used to be. Thin, dark hair, wide eyes, maybe 12. Still searching the faces for someone kind. And something inside you flinches. You stagger. Say it's the heat. Demetrius believes you. But you know the truth. That boy cracked something open. Not hope, but grief. Grief for the boy you were, the one nobody mourned. He's sold to another house. You never see him again. But you remember him. He brings back dreams, dangerous ones, of your father's laughter, of wind in mountain trees, of your mother's hands braiding your hair, dreams you thought you'd buried forever. Then one evening, during another symposium. The philosophers debate whether virtue is innate or learned. One claims slaves are born inferior. The other argues circumstances make them so. You stand silent beside the wine, listening. And suddenly you understand. They know. They know what they're doing. This isn't ignorance. It's intent. The cruelty is deliberate. It has always been. The democracy, the art, the ideas they build, it all rests on backs like yours. Your pain isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. And you, once a boy, now barely a ghost, finally see the truth with terrifying clarity. There is no contradiction, only convenience. Their brilliance and their brutality were never opposites. They fed each other, two branches growing from the same poisoned root. And now, you understand. This was never a flaw in the system. It was the blueprint. Years pass. You age. Not enough to be wise, but enough to become invisible again. No longer for your silence, but for your fading beauty. You are no longer a prize, only an object that has outlived its shine. One morning, Demetrius informs you with a shrug. You're being sold, not punished, not rewarded. Simply repurposed to the mines. Your value in the household is dropped, but there's still labor to extract from your bones. The mines are where slaves go to disappear. That night, Marcus visits. Somehow he's still alive. Thinner, quieter, but alive. Now, servant to the master's wife, he moves like a shadow. He presses something cold into your palm, a sliver of sharpened metal, a piece of scrap honed to a point. No words are spoken. None are needed. It's not a gift. It's a choice. You sit with it through the night, weighing the options. Run and die bloody. Strike and die screaming. Turn it inward and die on your terms. For once, control is within reach. But morning comes, and you make a different choice. You hide the shard where others might find it. Someone else will need it more than you. Someone not yet hollow, not yet gone. The journey to the mines is long. Winding roads, dry hills, the occasional glimpse of blue water. You pass villages that stir something inside you. Mountains like the ones you once called home. Streams like the ones you once played in. But you don't reach for them, toward them. The past is a ghost that no longer speaks your name. You arrive in the mining camp, and hell greets you. The air is thick with stone dust. Breathing hurts. The tunnels are narrow and cracked, collapsing without warning. The work is endless. There is no day, only shifts. No sky, only rock. And yet, something astonishing grows here. In this pit designed to kill, life takes root. The slaves build a world of their own. They share food, shoulder burdens, whisper old name, sing forgotten songs. They remember each other. They remember you. You, the boy sold for debt. The one who survived the unthinkable, who didn't resist, but didn't vanish either, who passed on hope, quietly, when you no longer felt it yourself. Your body gives out, eventually, not with violence, but with wear. Your lungs, long scarred, simply stop. You die in the dark. No monuments, no outcry. But your name is spoken, carried in stories around the fires, carved into stone, shared in lullabies. And that is not the end. Because stories like yours don't end. They echo in silence, in shadows, beneath the columns of marble temples, behind the verses of great thinkers, beneath the floor of every palace. Your story lingers. The world still celebrates the civilization that built your prison. Its reason, its beauty, its order. But none of it existed without pain. That's not a contradiction. That's the symmetry of power. We like to think we've changed, that we've grown more humane. But the structure remains. The faces are new, the systems refined. But still, children disappear into labor. The vulnerable are crushed in the gears of comfort. The powerful still trade lives for convenience. Slavery rebrands, abuse retools, and the world turns. Our symposiums are digital now, global, sanitized by law and language. But the terms are the same. One life, for another's pleasure. You died in a mine, faceless to history. But your story survived, not in textbooks, not in sculpture, but in every whispered truth still hidden from polite society. In every voice that says, "This happened," and someone, somewhere, is still listening.